Will the virtuous Sangha, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach and guide us how to end birth and death, live suffering and attain bliss, and quickly realize non-birth. Cung thính đại đức tăng thịnh, vì thứ pháp hội cấp nhất thiết chúng sanh, thịnh chuyên diệu pháp luân giao đạo ngã môn, như há liêu sanh thoát tư ly khổ đắc lạc, tất chứng vô sanh. Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One.
Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One.
Nam mô Sananto Suchedo Ye Erlahudi San Miao San Puto Xie.
Nam mô Sadanto Suchedo Ye Erlahudi San Miao San Puto Xie.
Nam mô Tạc Nạc Tha Toya Daya Alahade Tamil Tambo Da Toa.
Nam mô Takata Toya Daya Alahade Tamil Tambo Da Toa.
The unsurpassed, profound, subtle, and wonderful Dharma in 100,000 million aeons is difficult to encounter. Now that I am able to see and hear, I will receive and maintain it. I vow to fathom thus come one's true and actual principles. Wu shang sheng sheng wei miao fa bai jian wan jie nan zao yu. 我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Huineng, Venerable Shenhua, Venerable Left-Home people, and all good known advisors of Mitofo. 诸佛菩萨、六祖、师父、上人、各位出家人、各位善知识，阿弥陀佛。Chư Phật Bồ Tát, kính thưa lục tổ, thầy Tiến Hóa, quý thầy cô và các vị thiện tri thức A Di Đà Phật. Hello everyone, today is the last Sunday of August 2021. We welcome you to join us in analyzing the last chapter of the 6th Patriarch Sutra, chapter 10, the final instructions. We are on slide 243. All right, let's jump right into it. Sutra text. I will now teach you how to recognize the living beings within your mind and how to see the Buddha nature there.
Are you ready?
吾今教如是自心众生，见自心佛性。
All right, 244. The great teacher now wants to teach them how to recognize the living beings in their minds or in our minds, and how to see the Buddha nature there. Okay? Okay, let's see what he's going to tell them next. 245, Sutra text. If you wish to see the Buddha, simply recognize living beings. For it is living beings who are confused about the Buddha, and not the Buddha who is confused about living beings.
欲求见佛，但是众生，只为众生迷佛，非是佛迷众生。
Okay, 246. He says, So the comment I made was that it isn't just answering an opposite pair. Remember, we taught the 36 pairs of opposites. When people ask you a question, you respond by telling them about the opposite, what the question is, negate the question. Okay, if they ask about white, you say you talk to them about black, and then you negate black, then it's white. Okay, so that's how the techniques that he taught his disciples and how to answer questions about the Dharma. If you simply recognize living beings, for it's living beings who are confused about the Buddha, not the Buddha is just confused about living beings. I'm sure he's going to elaborate. I don't know what he's talking about. Okay, 247, Sutta text. When enlightened to the self-nature, the living beings are the Buddha. If confused about the self-nature, the Buddha is a living being.
自性若悟，众生是佛；自性若迷，佛是众生。
Okay, so this is what all the patriarchs are saying. When you are enlightened, meaning you see your self-nature, and this is the Chinese expression, seeing your self-nature is basically to be able to see your own reality, your truth, the truth about you. Okay, because right now you cannot see the truth. We can describe it to you, you won't even be able to recognize it. And as a matter of fact, we can't even describe it to you because the self-nature is worthless. There's no words in this world that can accurately describe the self-nature. It's something that cannot be described. It has to be experienced. Okay? So when you enlighten to your self-nature, when you are able to connect with your self-nature, at that time, okay, you are no longer confused. At that time, you see like the Buddhas do. They see that every single living being is but a Buddha. Can you see? So that's why the implication is that since the Buddha sees each of us as a Buddha, okay, and therefore he's very respectful. Because one of the things we need to emphasize in education to teach our children is the first thing is be respectful. Because Buddhas are very respectful towards us. No matter how confused we are, he's still very respectful. Okay? So when you see your self-nature, when you are able to enlighten to your self-nature, to sing ru wu, okay, ru here, awaken to, enlighten to. So enlighten here also can be translated as awaken to, or you're able to perceive it, or you're able to see it. Okay? And that's what the Chan school is about, to a set of techniques that help you quickly awaken to your nature, to see your nature. Okay? At that time, everything you see, every single living being you see is a Buddha. Okay? The Taliban, the IS, Republicans, would you believe? Richard, that's a hard one for me. Okay, so the point here is that you have to trust the patriarch. If he says Donald is a Buddha, we better take it at his, at his words. Okay. The living being is but a Buddha. Okay, so every single living being is a Buddha, even the unvaccinated ones. Would you believe? This pandemic thing is making me lose a lot of followers. The non-vax people. If you're confused about the self-nature, that's us. Okay, we're confused about our self-nature. Confused meaning we can't tell head from tail. We can't tell whether it's a self-nature or not. You see, that's confusion. We cannot tell. Okay? We can't. Again, I stress that it cannot be explained to you. It's impossible to explain to you. Okay? The Buddha, when you're confused about your self-nature, meaning you are confused, the Buddha is a living being. Okay? Then at that time, the Buddha present in you is still a living being. Is still the Buddha there. Whether you're confused or enlightened, it's still the Buddha. It's just you're not aware of it, that's all. Any problems? Okay? Next, 249. Sutra text. When the self-nature is impartial, the living being is the Buddha. When the self-nature is biased, the Buddha is a living being.
自性平等，众生是佛；自性邪显，佛是众生。
Is there some kind of commentary that we need to fix the Chinese or something, or no? Okay. Deviant and cruel. Okay. How come there's no commentary? Am I supposed to wing it or what? Okay, let me wing it. When the self-nature is impartial, the living being is the Buddha. When is the self-nature impartial? Is it ever partial? Huh? You're talking about the self-nature. Is it ever partial? What does it mean? And then he continues, he says, when the self-nature is biased, the Buddha is a living being. Since when is the self-nature biased? See? That's why there's no commentary. I had to wing it. Yes, sir. Number 6.
Seems like that should be mind. It seems like the word self-nature there should be mind.
Mind?
Well, there's the true mind and the false mind.
Okay.
So if the mind is impartial, it would be the true mind.
So explain yourself, please. Yeah, that sounds right, but could you elaborate a little bit more for the rest of us who are still confused?
Oh, I'm not saying I'm not confused, but the self-nature, just that word, the way it's used there, the self-nature doesn't seem like it could be impartial, but the mind could be either impartial or partial, whether it's true or not, true mind or not true mind. So it seems like self-nature should be the mind in that context.
The great teacher says the self-nature is impartial. He says the self-nature is impartial. He says it, I didn't say it. You see, those are not my words. Those are his words. Yes, KABC.
Thank you, Master. I believe what this is saying is my self-nature is partial when I want to have Governor Newsom reelected and not an anti-vaxxer Republican replace him.
Here we go again. I asked for it. Okay, it's all my fault.
I think my self-nature would be impartial when I say, I don't have to vote. It's the beginning of the Dharma ending age. It is what it is.
There's something philosophical about that reply. 贤戒, philosophy, your area, not of expertise. I don't know what he's talking about. Anyone else? That's pretty good. Yeah, anyone else? What is he talking about? How can the self-nature be impartial? How can the self-nature be biased? What is he talking about? Huh? Q&A.
A Di Đà Phật. Con nghĩ tự tánh đó là có hai vấn đề là các pháp. Tức là những pháp là những cái gì trên thế gian này mình biết được đó. Thì gọi là các pháp đó. Thì cái thể của nó là bình đẳng. Cái tánh không mà nãy sự sáng thì nói đó. Hồi sáng cái bài giảng hồi sáng tánh không đó, nó bình đẳng. Còn cái chúng sanh living being mình nó có cái tâm, cái chân tâm. Thì cái chân tâm đó thì mình bây giờ mình mới nhớ lại cái bài Ngài Huệ Năng dạy trong Trí Thường á. Cái chân âm của ông nó giống như cái vát blue sky vậy đó. Cái vát blue sky ở Rosemead với blue sky ở Răng Rose giống nhau, bình đẳng. Ở Việt Nam cũng bình đẳng, cái blue sky. Nhưng mà khi chúng ta có một cái spark khởi lên đó, thì Ngài thí dụ như một cái lightning stroke, một cái tia chớp lên vậy, đâu có còn empty nữa đâu. Thành ra khi mà một cái empty sky, một cái tánh mình nó bình đẳng á, thì chúng sanh là chúng sanh. Còn nếu mình mê đó, mình khởi lên đủ thứ rồi mình nhận cái đó là mình, thì là Phật là chúng sanh. Quý vị tự nhìn vô đầu mình biết cái đó chứ không cần ai đem tới mà ai dạy mình hết. Nhìn lại coi, so cái bài học của Ngài Huệ Năng dạy Ngài Trí Thượng á, quý vị chưa suy nghĩ gì hết. Nó giống như là blue empty sky vậy. Ai cũng giống nhau hết. Nhưng mà khi mình khởi một ý nghĩ lên, hai ý nghĩ, ba ý nghĩ lên, ý mẹ đẻ với con ra thì nó chằng chịt là chúng sanh rồi. Mình ôm cái đó mình là chúng sanh. Nó là Phật mê là chúng sanh đó. Nhưng mà cái blue sky nó still there. Bây giờ mình nhìn lại mình có cái Phật tánh, cái blue sky thì nhân quả gì nó cũng cái không đó hết trơn á. Mình với Phật đồng một thứ. Trong trang 49 của cái Công Đức Sâm Mantra mình đọc hồi sáng, trang 49, con với Phật đồng một thể, một tâm á. Xin hết.
Let's see how Xianren translates this.
Master, I think the self-nature here, it's like everything in this world, the substance is impartial. It's impartial, bình đẳng. So sorry, it's hard to translate. So it's the living being, we have the true mind. So like the sixth page sutra was taught Chu Chang that the true mind is similar to the vast blue sky. So it's the same everywhere, whether it's in Rosemead, in San Jose, or in Vietnam. The blue sky is the same. Only when you strike up the thought, it's similar to the lightning that strike in the sky. So that blue sky cannot have emptiness anymore. So whenever you strike up the thought and one thought after another, that's when you have attachment, and then that's when the Buddha become living beings. Your Buddha inside is still there, but it's like it was covered up, you cannot see it. And then it's similar concept like this morning Master was talking about the laws of cause and effect, or like in the Great Compassion Mantra in page 49, it says that living being and the Buddha have the same substance, the same nature.
How can I fight myself? Go ahead, you two.
Iram Amadani says, it is not your or mine. Self-nature is impartial, just like Tao. Nature is impartial by default, and nature is always impartial.
Okay, Q&A. We still have Q&A? Go ahead, Q&A.
I think here the sutra just means because just right before the sentence, the sutra was talking about when the self nature is awakened, 自性若悟，众生是佛. Living beings are Buddha, and then when the self nature is confused, 自性若迷，佛是众生. Buddha is a living being. So I think here just talk about self nature can be confused or awakened. Similar to what Venerable Xianzhi was saying, that it's the same self-nature, but they can be covered up.
Very good. Anyone else? Go ahead, Jewel Mountain.
Venerable Shannon says, one disciple donates more money, another donates less and more afflicting. But the one who saw Buddha nature can treat all students without discriminating and impartial.
Who's that?
It was Venerable Shannon.
No, I mean, who donates so little money? Okay, very good. Is it? Oh, they don't have intertemple yet at. Are you? Is Xianan from Seoul? From Konk? Huh? You know what Konk is?
Yes, I believe.
She's from Konk.
I believe in.
That's a nickname for Jewel Konk branch temple, so we call it Konk. until they become bigger, then we call it something else. Okay, all right. I think it's not bad. Okay, you guys got it. You understand the process. It's the same principles, but you can't seem to put it right on the finger. Yes, go ahead, Q&A. On the nose.
Amitabha Master.
Amitabha.
Because, sorry, I kind of lost my thought. What he is saying that Buddha seeing that we human did not see the self nature, therefore it is impartial. But Buddha do not see those, so therefore there's no bias or impartial in his view. So I think his teaching is like reverse.
Okay, very good. Okay, the answers are all pretty good. Okay, here's what he's talking about exactly, as was pointed out. It's a continuation of the prior section. The enlightened self-nature, living being is the Buddha. Confused by self-nature, Buddha is a living being. And this just elaborates it. That's all it does. Okay? It's obvious, isn't it? What he's talking about is that he's talking about you. Okay? If you are impartial, are you impartial? Never mind. Okay, if you are biased. Me, I'm biased. I prefer big donors. Just proved it to you. Okay? I'm biased. Therefore, I am a confused living being. Is that clear? He's not talking about someone else, he's talking about us. Okay? If you're biased, okay, you're confused. Okay? Because the Buddha in you manifests itself as a confused person. The Buddha nature, it has many manifestations. It manifests itself as you, manifests itself as me, manifests itself as her, manifests itself as Chungin, and so forth. Wontek, and so forth. You see, Buddha nature, it has many manifestations. In other words, yes? So the Buddha nature he's describing here is the Buddha nature that is manifested through you. When you are impartial, you are enlightened. You are the Buddha. If you are biased, if you discriminate, and then you are a confused living being. Right, Bosco? There you go. He approves. Is that clear? That's all. But it's very Chinese. They don't speak directly like we do Westerners. They say, you, this is you. This section is about you. The self-nature being partial, meaning if you are impartial, then you're behaving like a Buddha. Yes? If you're biased, you prefer to be with God, then you are confused. Because you have discrimination. We don't discriminate. Right, Brady? Thank you. Let's move on quickly. 251. Is it clear? It's very simple, but the Chinese, this is what kills me about the Chinese. Okay? Why can't they explain the way I just explain it to you? Okay? I would say, if your mind is impartial, okay, you act like a Buddha. You are being a Buddha. If you're biased, you're confused like hell. That's all. But no, the Chinese have to do it in such a poetic way so no one's offended. So that then can save the Republicans as well. And Democrats. If the Buddha happened to be a Republican, he wants to save Democrats as well. You see? So that's what it is. You see? So there are advantages for them to be this way, okay? But it causes confusion for us in the Dharma ending age where you say, huh? How can a self-nature be impartial? How can a self-nature be biased? Huh? All right, go ahead, Q&A.
Con nghĩ người Tàu nó dùng cái chữ chúng sanh là rất là chính xác và rất là hay. Chúng sanh trong cái pháp hội đó nghe có thể là rồng nghe, quỷ nghe, con dế nghe, những con ma nó nghe, và những người đang có mặt tại pháp hội nó nghe. Thì người ta dùng cái chữ chính xác nhất là chúng sanh. Chúng sanh là những cái tình thức có sự biết. Thì anh là American, anh là Black, anh là White, anh là Democrat, thì đơn má rồi. Anh nghĩ anh là chúng sanh thì nó apply for every living being. Not for American or the West or the East and anything. Cái từ đó rất là chính xác và rất là chung. Ma nghe cũng được mà rồng nghe cũng hiểu. Mình liên hệ trở lại mình đó. Xin hết.
Master, in this slide, I think the patriarch used the word living beings is very accurate because living beings can be the dragons or the goats and the spirit, the insects, or living beings, humans, or whatever. So the way he used the word beings is mean apply to everyone. Doesn't matter whether you are American, you are black, you are white, is applied to all living beings.
Any other comments? Of course, Daniel. He asked about the self-nature, Buddha nature. Now he's want to comment about Buddha nature.
Number 2. I just have a question. Is it possible for
a Buddhist to go to the Pure Land?
That's questionable. Is it possible for an ant to be impartial? Or like something that can...
Who to be impartial?
An ant or a goat, or is just acting by self-nature?
Is it possible for an ant to be impartial?
Yes.
Is it possible for you to be impartial?
Yes.
That's not true. You cannot be impartial. You prefer to be with God. How can you be impartial? You keep on telling me every single time I see your face. So I prefer to be with God. You prefer God over Buddha. We hurt. How can you then claim you're impartial? You're nonsense. You're contradicting yourself. I catch you with your pants down every single time.
Well, I'm not impartial 100% of the time, maybe 1% of the time. But another thing is that how can I be biased if we just believe in one God because that's my belief and that's what I believe and that's what I affirm to be true? So for me, that's not being
So
too
people have
biased.
beliefs cannot be biased?
Yes, they can. But in
You
my
should
own,
contradict yourself again.
but my own point of view,
I'm not going to debate with him anymore. Just shoot him down. Let him walk home. You hear?
叫他走回家，听到吗？
Okay, anyone else?
还有没有别的人？
Yes, number 4.
第4，
Master, there's a question from Korea from last week,
韩国
From last week.
上个礼拜是有一个
related to last week's lecture.
We haven't fixed this problem yet.
这
We're
个
still
问题还没有讲完。
debating. Go ahead.
Just in case if you want to keep this in mind.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
During the last lecture, you said
他说上
recognizing living beings
课呢，你说
is the Buddha nature. I would like to know the actual meaning of the recognition, and please show us specific examples related to that.
可不可以
I recognize you.
是
Therefore, it's from my Buddha nature.
佛性？我想要知道怎么样是众生
Okay.
而
Is
且
that
呢
specific enough?
可不可以有一个
It's relates to here as well. Okay. Hang in there and you see this will answer the question. Before we get this to the final conclusion, okay, in the spirit of fairness, okay, because apparently San Jose believes that
所以呢，相信呢，
the abbot there
在
want
呢相信呢，
he prefers 众生 living being.
他是
I
众
said
生
that's too Chinese.
那我说
It's
是太
Vietnamese. You know.
中国了。
I said,
No,
I prefer, I don't like Zhongsheng. He said, no, I like Zhongsheng. So, just for the sake of clarity,
我只是要
can we
跟你
put
们
this to a
讲
vote?
清楚，我们可不可以投票？
Who's for living beings? Raise your hands. Korea, this is only for Korea. This is not us. I know where you all lined up for. Okay, I know it already, so it's not fair to the old monk. Let's face it. I just want to ask the Koreans where they stand on this. You know what I mean? Okay, Korea, do you go for Zhongsheng or you go with me?
你说众生还是你要照我的想的，
Who
听
votes
我的？
with the old monk?
谁同意这个贤持师的？
I'm watching you.
我在看你们。
Hey, Kimchi, put your hands down. The Kimchi lady, you, how could you? If you say Zhongsheng, then you're voting with the old monk, the abbot in San Jose. And then next time you come to the U.S., you stay in San Jose, you hear? Question from Jewel Mountain Temple, go ahead.
宝山寺，请说。
Master, can you hear from us?
What did he say?
听到我们说话吗？
Yeah, we can hear you.
是的，我们可以听到。
Yes, Master. Still the same question that we would like to know what is specifically to recognize a being.
如何可以知道
Okay.
众生可以是众生呢？
In all of us,
在我们之中呢，
there is something called the Buddha nature, and all living beings
佛性，
are endowed with something called the Buddha
所
nature.
有众生呢，
Okay, this is the Buddha's teaching, it's not my
这
teaching.
也是佛的
The Buddha says every single living being, no matter who you are,
不管你是谁，
whether you're a cockroach
不管你是
or
或者
a
是
traitor
或者是
Okay.
一个叛徒，
or a hero,
或者
you
是
all have the Buddha nature.
你们都是有
So
佛
far,
性
so good. Okay, and there is that Buddha nature that enables you
可以帮
to
助使
function.
你呢运作。
These are fundamental Buddhist concepts in Mahayana. It's the Buddha nature that enables you to be alive. Okay, And only the scientists and the doctors will characterize it as the team idea. You're alive because your heart beats, because you're thinking, but they don't understand that behind the scenes is something called the Buddha nature that provides a life force for us. Okay? If you don't understand what I'm talking about, watch Star Wars. Oh, it's a too American word joke. Do you guys watch Star Wars in Korea? China? Vietnam? Okay. It's American. So this Buddha nature here is the engine, if you will, of all the living beings. Okay? As the engine, the living being of all living beings, it enables us to live. And part of living is to recognize. So people in the world mistakenly think that when you see, it's with your eyes. No, it isn't. When you see, it's your eye organs, okay, that's able to recognize. So far, so good. You still follow me. The eye by itself cannot recognize. Okay? The eye organ is part of the process of recognition. But the eye by itself does not recognize. Okay? Saying what recognizes? What recognizes is the Buddha nature through the eye organ. Okay? So case in point, if you're blind, and the Buddha disciples were blind, what's his name? Aniruddha was blind because he, on his practice path, he was very vigorous. He was lazy. So the Buddha scolded him and said, you know, you're so lazy, when are you going to become enlightened? So Aniruddha was so ashamed of himself, so he said, I'm not going to sleep anymore. I'm going to cultivate, I'm going to meditate until I become enlightened. So he did that. He didn't sleep. He didn't rest. To the end, in the end, he went blind. Okay? So he said, oh my God, what's going to do now? Should I become Catholic? Because I can't become enlightened now because I'm blind. You see that? I can't see anymore. So the Buddha said, no worries. Okay? Don't be Catholic. It's a last resort. Let's try this first. You Buddhists, all you Buddhists find it funny, right? So the Buddha taught Aniruddha, Venerable Aniruddha, a dharma that helped him open his heavenly eye. Okay? So he can see. So the point here is that in Buddhism, there are other eyes you can see with. That they are different from your flesh eyes. You see? So that's a proof right there that the seeing is not from the eyes. It's from your Buddha nature that goes through a recognition process through whatever means, whether it's flesh eyes, your regular eyes, or the flesh eye, or this, the heavenly eye, or the Dharma eye, or wisdom eye, and so forth. Those are simply the means for the Buddha nature to manifest a recognition process. Is it clear? Does it help with the original question? Okay. YouTube has a question first.
Yes, Empty Space asks, our Buddha nature can create suffering and impartial boundless love. Is it a clear understanding of my nature to say Bodhi mind is the producer of all mental phenomena and not just the good or impartial thoughts?
You're reaching too far. Stop it. There's no need to go that far, because when you reach too far, you're out of balance, and it's just too difficult to fix. Okay. Buddhism, let me read the general answer for this empty space person here. Buddhism is not about understanding as the way you're trying to do. You're trying to project your concepts your understanding, and it's not necessary. Buddhism is about being able to first learn these words of wisdom and then meditate, so that you will see, you will be able to open your wisdom. Okay, what you're doing basically, in brief, is you're making conjectures, which is way off base, frankly speaking. So I would not touch it with a 10-foot pole. Go ahead. 2.
Thank you, Master. I just wanted to share my experience now that cultivating for about 7 years now about recognition. In my current role at work, I have to hire lots of people, so I have to constantly be interviewing. Oh, sorry.
You heard him. They hiring. You hear him? Okay.
Yeah.
And if you want to know the company's name, make a donation, a big donation, not small donation.
So I have to interview a lot of artists, and artists can have a wide skill set that is not always something you can measure with a test. And so an interview, you talk to someone, you listen to them, you see them, but to recognize a talented employee, I think to your point, is something I've learned, isn't something I'm going to see with my eyes or hear with my ears. It's more, recognizing is more of another kind of perception.
So are you being impartial?
100%.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. The abbot is saying what he says is right, because those are the words on the 6-page chart. How can you fight it? My words are simpler in order to present it from our perspective of the 21st era, okay, where it's a little bit narrower, but it is what he means here, okay. You can read, if the self-nature manifests itself as impartial, then that living being is the Buddha. See, the self-nature manifests itself as impartial in that living being, then that living being is the Buddha. That's what it means. So it's correct. So his interpretation is correct. However, okay, the way I presented it a lot shorter, if you are impartial, meaning you, any living being. So my you is a living being already. So it's the same thing. But I do appreciate those of you who stood by me. Thank you. It's the same thing, exact same thing. It's just a matter of semantics, matter of wording. We're both saying the same thing. Okay. All right. So don't try to understand too much. We're talking about the Buddha nature. It's not something you can identify with. Okay, this is meant for you to be exposed to and be aware that the Buddha nature manifests itself through you, through all of us. So we have a piece of us. We have the Buddha nature in all of us. That's a great news. Okay, now it's a matter of us how to learn to develop skills so that we can use it at will. Okay? Right now we don't have the means to use it. We don't have the skills to use it. To be a Buddha when we want to be a Buddha. Because it's haphazard right now. Sometimes we're impartial. Okay? Sometimes we're biased. Most of the time we're biased. So what are we going to do? How can you tell when you're biased and how can you tell you're impartial? You can't. Okay? All right. Any other questions and comments? Next. 251, Sutra text. If your thoughts are devious and malicious, the Buddha dwells within the living being. But by means of one impartial thought, the living being becomes a Buddha.
汝等心若闲曲，即佛在众生中，一念平直，即是众生成佛。
Okay, let me see what kind of brilliant explanation we have. Again, this, you know why it's like this? It's because Master Xinhua didn't explain it. See, what I do when I prepare for these sutra lectures, the first pass is I went through Master Xinhua's explanation. Okay, that's the safest route. Okay, he has such a good reference. Hey, listen, he's a patriarch. Like it or not, whether you disapprove of him or because you don't believe him, it doesn't matter. But he's a patriarch. Therefore, everything he does is the proper dharma. So you stick with that as a basis, and then you add to it, or you work from there. So the core is the Buddhist, the Master Xinhua's teaching in my generation, at least from me. But then, unfortunately, he didn't have much more to say. Okay, so he elaborates on that. You see that this is my proof right here. And you see on slide 249, the living being he's referring to. Okay, if the self-nature is impartial, the living being is the Buddha. And I explained to you, this living being is you. Remember? Okay, that's exactly what he explains next. If you are, you got that? If you are, this is continuation. Okay, so in general, he says, in blanket statement, living beings who are impartial are the Buddha, acting like Buddhas. Furthermore, in particular, you can add, in particular, if your thoughts now, I'm not talking about living beings, if your thoughts, I think the monk still disagrees with me. Go ahead, Q&A.
Sorry, this is a separate question, but I do agree with you that the sutra exactly matches master point about you. My question was about the previous section, building up on the Korean question. So the sixth patriarch was asking us to recognize the living beings. But then did he teach in this text, in this section, how do we do that? Or did I miss it?
How do what? What's the question?
How do we recognize living beings?
You can recognize already. There's no need to how. You just recognize them. Your Buddha nature recognizes it. That's all. He says it's automatic. When you recognize, hey, you, then it's your Buddha nature that recognizes. What else do you want? You want to explain why? It just is. Okay? I think San Jose is up to something. Is there a secret behind this that we're not telling the Catholics yet? You know? No, it's no secret. Catholics are also Buddhists. Did you know that?
Okay.
So, you see, again, I'm lazy. The great master says, in general, the self-nature is impartial. All living beings can be the Buddha. And when the self-nature is biased, the Buddha manifests itself as a living being. Furthermore, in particular, if you're, now we're talking about you, okay? I'm lazy, I skip this part. I say, strike this, it's too complicated, okay? Because the logic is very, very clever. He builds it from here, from slide 247 to 249 to 251. I skipped the middle part, okay? if your thoughts are being devious and malicious, yes? Okay. The Buddha dwells within a living being, meaning it's hidden in me. You see, it's very Chinese. You have to read it. And that's why the Chinese person in San Jose understood the connection between the first two parts, 247, 249. There's a logic here. There is a chain of thought there. Okay. However, it's Chinese thinking. Okay. It seems it's clear that Chinese person in San Jose understands it. We don't. I'm bothered by it. Okay, so he says, that if your thoughts are devious and malicious, okay, the Buddha hides inside of you, within here, okay, 佛在众生中, okay, it's in the middle, meaning that it's so Chinese. That's what really annoys me. Okay, in the middle, meaning you can't see it. Is it clear? It's so Chinese. No? I'm sorry, I'm not being nice to Chinese people. You understand? In the middle. You can't see it. It's just like those corn dog.
Corn dog.
The dog is inside. You can't see it. I'm still hungry, I think. You got that? So that's what he means. Within here, 在中, meaning it's so poetic, it's so elegant. The way the great master puts it. It's inside of you. You're so special. Yes, number 6.
Oh, Master, I'm trying to figure this out. And it seems to me that what Sixth Patriarch is saying is by the realm of one impartial thought, we will become a Buddha. But I'm imagining he's implying we have Buddha nature at that instant with that impartial thought.
You jumped the gun, but it's where I'm going. That's correct. YouTube question. Go ahead.
Prajna Paramita asks, if Amitabha Buddha nature is within us as well as the Pure Land, then believing in Amitabha is non-dualism because he is one with us. Is that correct?
I got lost somewhere. So complicated. Can you repeat that, please?
No problem. The question was, if Amitabha Buddha nature is within us, as well as the Pure Land, then believing in Amitabha is non-dualism because he is one with us. Is this correct?
Say what? No, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh my God, that's too complicated. I don't get it. I get confused. I'm sorry. I'm a confused living being. Go ahead, number 2.
Okay, 第3呢?
Thank you, Master. So, if I were, and apologies to the Hankook Saram, who may not have this in their country, but if I were a Rhesus Pieces, then I would be the chocolate and Buddha.
Those of you, excuse me, those of you are thinking about interviewing with him, you know what to bring.
So, yes, please.
Sorry. Yeah.
All Reese's Pieces will be accepted.
We do accept donations. Yes.
So I would be the chocolate, and then the Buddha nature, the Buddha would be the peanut butter.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. I hope you like peanut butter. Okay. Yeah, precisely. That's the whole. It's that simple. It's Twinkies,
是的，就好像
Reese's Cups.
Reese's Cups.
Hey, man. Go ahead. Number 6.
It seems like this whole thing comes down to it takes one to see one.
No. It has nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that at all. This is certain teaching, by the way. This is certain teaching. This is why I'm disappointed he didn't say anything. My Shishima didn't say anything. This is a certain teaching right here. Okay? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Yes, sir. Number 2.
I have a question. Is the concept of Buddha nature the same as or equal to or related to the Buddha nature? Or Buddha nature is related to the soul, as we Christian refer to soul?
I don't know what the Christian concept of soul is. I'm pretty sure it's not the Buddha nature. How can you refer to the Buddha nature if you don't know what it is?
你怎么样可以知道是佛性，但是你不知道它是什么呢？
It's wishful thinking, my friend. Okay? For Buddhism, we cannot define what the Buddha nature is for you. All we can tell you is this Buddha nature. We don't call it soul, we don't call it whatever, black and white, whatever. We call like 12 different kinds of names. The soul is not one of them, sorry. 8. People have been complaining I speak too fast. Because I'm trying to get away from some people. Yes.
Mô Phật và thầy, tất cả ai nào cũng có Phật tánh ở trên á, mà mình bị cái tham sân si đó, cái cố chấp đó, thì Phật cũng dời bỏ mình, ông không có gần mình nữa rồi, ông ngu nhà đi rồi.
Master, I think like we all have the Buddha nature, but because we have great hatred and stupidity, that's why the Buddha left us, the Buddha moved away.
Okay. Very good. Anyone else? I'm so happy. Because those of you who didn't have, who have nothing to ask, Malcolm, for example, this is what he's talking about. Okay? Okay. If you have any thoughts at all, the Buddha dwells within the living being, meaning you are a hot dog. I mean, you are a corn dog. So far, so good. I think San Jose is going to fight with me again. Okay? You got that? This is my version of it, 21st century version. If you have a thought, I don't care if it's devious or good or whatever, okay? Nasty, ikia, Christian, okay? You are a corn dog, okay? But by means of one impartial thought, the living beings become a Buddha. You understand what this means? What is this impartial thought? What is this impartial thought? I'm coming to that. You see, you think... I'm going to explain this more important part is what is this impartial thought that Brady asks about? Right? He says, if this guy gets the right of the gusto, he says, I don't care what the malicious whatever, it's not me. Okay? Leave it to them. Okay? Let them sin. Okay? But for us, what about this impartial thought? If I have that, won't I become a Buddha? Right? Yes. So what is this impartial thought? Aren't you interested? That's what he wants to know. Yes? He's asking for all of my disciples. My beloved disciples. Yes, Malcolm, who's going to travel the world.
Master, I think the impartial thought is not something that you would think that this is a dual thing, or this is this or that, but maybe a thought of gratitude, then that would be an impartial thought, and then that could lead you to the Buddha nature manifesting.
He says it's a thought of gratitude. How about the rest of you? What does Google have to say? Mr. Xian Xuan. Never mind. She's checking some sort of YouTube kung fu movie. Or is that weekend sales after lecture? Where do I go with Francis? And you think we're cultivating? Not all of us. Anyone else? Yes, 6. What's his impartial thought?
Yeah,
he says it's a thought of gratitude.
It's strange because thought to me by definition is already partial. So it's saying sort of impartial, partial, which is a contradiction. So to me, I would say that that's a state of no thought at all.
You're imitating me. I hate it when you imitate me. Yes, Catholic. 2. No, let's have 2 first. I don't care. Move them to the back.
Thank you, Master. An impartial thought is last night at like 11:30 at night. My wife tells me tomorrow morning is Great Compassion Ceremony.
I knew he was going to bring her into the picture.
And that was the impartial thought. The partial thought is my immediate thought of that's too early. I'm not going.
Okay. Go ahead, Daniel.
For me, impartial thought will be when you're not thinking, or when you're meditating, you're not thinking.
It's so fascinating about these people. They talk about things they don't know what they're talking about. Go ahead, you too. He says, when you have no thought, you're not thinking. Can you do that? Say what? You don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, who is that? YouTube, go ahead.
YouTube.
Iram Amadani says, impartial thought is no thought, no discrimination, not bad, not good. It just is. It's not good, not bad. It just is.
Okay, very good. It's excellent. Okay, let's be practical. Let's see, you want, based on the Buddhist teaching and the 6th way teaching here, it says, one impartial thought, the living being becomes a Buddha. I want to sign up. Yes, for that impartial thought. One impartial thought, that's all it takes. That's why it's called certain teaching. Is it clear? Boom, one impartial thought, and Jim becomes happy forever. Yay! Yeah, Lily too wants to sign up. Okay, so if we believe the great teacher, then we say, how do I have this impartial thought? Yes, that's what Brady's original question was. So, let's see. Shall we begin with, let's have an impartial thought? Yes? I got you. You see? What kind of impartial thought are you going to have? Yes, Jeannie's husband. You saved some time.
Thank you, Master. I think the best example of impartial thought I could have is I'm going to listen to my good knowing advisor.
You're not helping. How can I criticize that? Anyone else? Go ahead. Lily, give it to Lily first. She raised her hand before you did. Number 9.
네, 제 생각에는 그 평등한 그 생각이 둘 아닌 도리. 우리가 그걸 불교 법으로 말하면 불이법이라고 그러죠. 둘 아닌 둘이 모든 게 나다. 저분이 하는 것도 둘 아닌 둘이다. 용서하고 사랑하고 그런 마음가짐인 것 같습니다.
My thought of impartial thought is it's not about two. It's about everything is all together and everything all is one and we're forgiving and loving everyone.
Okay? Here's the problem. You have a thought that says, let's have an impartial thought. How is it impartial now? Because you're partial to impartial thoughts already. Yes, number 6.
I mean, we're not supposed to seek, but then we're seeking enlightenment. That's a strange contradiction. I don't really understand.
No. I repeat for you. If you ever think like Lily, you say, I want to have an impartial thought, I'm accusing her of being partial immediately. Yeah? Because you're partial to having an impartial thought. What's the matter with you? Can't you have, can you be, you know, how can you be, what about the other side? You're not being fair to the partial thoughts. Okay? Go ahead, Q&A.
I don't really know. I will guess that when you stop thinking and enter samadhi, and what arises naturally, that maybe and maybe when you are in the high level samadhi, what arises naturally, that's the thought.
Okay, number 9. Sorry, I keep you waiting. Let me do a look ahead and see if he's going to explain this. Okay, go ahead. I'm only cheating.
I think there's no way to know what is the impartial thought because it would be different for everybody.
Okay. Very good. Some people are partial to Catholicism. Some people are partial to Buddhism. Some people are partial to whatever they want to believe. Okay, none of the above. Okay. So what? So what is this impartial thought? You too.
Master, if all thoughts are false, then no thought can be impartial, right?
Precisely. Any thought is partial. How can you be impartial when you have a thought? It's not possible to be impartial when you have a thought.
只要你也有念头，你怎么样可以如何不平等呢？如何平等呢？每个念头都是不平等的。
6.
Kind of banking off what Vicky said, it would seem that a person's last sort of partial thought would be whatever attachment they finally let go of. It would be different for every person.
Let's not get lost in words. Let me explain to you this partial thought really is, and you think about it. Okay, I can play games with you for next hour. Okay, about this impartial thought here. It's very simple. By means of one impartial thought, okay, it only means don't think. This is why I don't like the Chinese style explanation. We can spend the next hour arguing about what's partial, what's impartial. You know, you really misunderstand me, because you're not from Hong Kong like me, stuff like that. No. It's very simple. This is why this is the Chinese style of explaining, but for us, very simple. Just don't think. You have no thoughts. That's the only chance for you to be impartial. Okay?
解释
Someone
呢
praises you.
其实就是说你要怎么样呢才可以是
Someone scolds you.
当有人骂你的
That's
时候
impartial. Because
有
if
人
someone
在赞美你
praises
的
you,
时候
oh, thank you, thank you,
那都
thank you.
是那都是
Are you
平
being
直的
partial or impartial?
那你是平直的
Partial.
还是不是平
Yes,
直
to
的？
praises. Or someone beats you up.
如果
Oh,
有
I
人
like it, thank you.
打你呢？就说啊，我
Are
很
you
喜
being
欢
partial or
那这样是
impartial?
平直的还是不平直的？
Clearly, you partial to pain.
那很明显的你是很喜
Okay,
欢
so
痛的。
that's why
所以
you
这
are
就是为什么
thus immoving, no
你其实
thoughts.
是如如不动，
That's
是
the
没有
only
念头。
way for
那
us
这
to
是
be
唯一
impartial.
呢，是可以是不平直的。
Go ahead too.
Sir, would a way to not think be to have an awareness of the Bodhi mind with equanimity?
Come again.
If I take in meditation, and especially in sitting, and I'm feeling all this pain, and I'm trying to bring about this stillness, and then in my attempt to stillness, I try to gain an awareness of my Bodhi mind, or my generator of the awareness, and then I do so without attachment. Is that a way to not think?
No. That's the worst way to not think. Let me explain. Why is the worst way? Should I or should not?
慈爱心，这样子呢，是不是
Some
有什么方法
might not
可以让
like
我
this.
不要起心动
It's
念
too hinayana.
师父就说这个是
You're trying
说没有
to
这是罪
rationalize it. Whereas the training here is that if you sit and the
方式
pain
呢，让你可
arises,
以不要有任何念头
Okay?
起来。所以呢，
you
你说
endure
呢
it.
当你呢
That's the only
有任
instruction.
何呢
You don't need to understand why. You don't need to justify why you have to fight it. You don't have to understand why there's pain. You don't have to know how I'm going to end it. Okay? The instruction from this is Chinese secret. Okay, this is what I like about the Chinese. This is so ingenious. The instruction on how to deal with this important problem in your life means this pain that's so unbearable that is really confuses the heck out of you and makes you impossible to function. You can't think anymore. Okay? You're losing your dignity as a human being. I hope no one sees me like this. Okay? And all that, all you have to do is bear it until it goes away. It is ingenious. We, smart people, try to understand too much. It's by enduring it that we stop trying to understand.
忍耐下去呢，我们就会停止去理解它。
Okay. Q&A.
Q&A.
Master, during those exchanges of sudden teaching, where the students and teachers are working on this dialogue exchange, at the end, the student kind of got scolded or like beaten up and kind of stopped thinking, and then there's this aha after that. Is that sort of the sort of impartial? That's where all the like confused thinking stopped, and then that enlightenment happened, or am I projecting too much?
What did I just tell you?
Stop thinking.
Thank you. Shame on you. This woman here, I have to repeat it at least several times before she gets it. But. Q&A. That's it? Okay. So So this is why it's misleading because you read this, you think you understand what it means. This is one impartial thought. It's just one impartial thought. Isn't that wonderful? Okay? That's why I call misleading Chinese teaching. Okay, the Chinese may understand it, except for the one in San Jose who just spoke. Okay, so just if you maintain your mind that has no thoughts, that's the state of a Buddha. That's all. Yeah. So the living becomes a Buddha. This is semantics. This is the Chinese love to say these things. Salespeople love to do these things, okay, to sound impressive, okay. But it's very simple. You have no thought, you're a Buddha. That's all. Meaning, right now, if you want to become a Buddha, you want that one impartial thought? That's what the teacher says. Don't think. See if you can. Does it help? It's so clear, isn't it? Crystal clear. There's no argument. There's no debate. Okay? Just have no thoughts. Then you are a Buddha. Yes, Malcolm.
Master, is this related to the 8 winds?
Yes. It has nothing to do with gratitude either. A thought of gratitude is still a thought. You being partial to gratitude. Okay? Go ahead, number 2.
Master, what can we do to have no thought?
How can you have no thoughts? When it hurts so much, when it's so agonizing, when the weight is so unbearable, what do? Nothing. Don't ask for help. That's no thought. Oh, you look at me like that. See, it's part of the training. You're missing out on the training. You run away from problems. When problems arise, when the legs hurt, Alex, bear it. That's all. Bear it and bear it and bear it more and more and more. Then you say, oh, I love this. No, don't even do that. See that? That's Chan right there. It is ingenious. Don't you think? It sweeps everything clean. No argument. There's no understanding. There's no Chinese. There's no Westerners. Nothing. Just sweep everything away. Okay? Just don't think about it. Including how can I have one impartial thought? Cut it out. How do you get there? By bearing the pains, by bearing what is not bearable, folks. Huh? Life is unbearable, isn't it? I hate it. I don't know about you, but I hate it. I work 8 hours a day. Well, once in a while.
Well,
you think. And it's all work. It's unbearable. So what do? You run away, right? You say, "Oh, I don't want to do anything that is difficult or that is painful anymore." You being partial. You think Buddha minds when he says, "I have to work and teach all these partial people. And no matter what I say, they're also partial. They insist on me teaching them how to have that one impartial thought. And all I try to tell you is just cross your legs and bear your pain. Say, look, it's got to be more than this. Seriously? No, there's nothing more. Because pain is the only thing you can observe, but behind it, you don't know what's really behind the cause of your pain. It says all you have to do is endure. Who cares about why? Just endure it. You can call policewoman and say, why am I having pain here in my hips? Can you see anything? The policewoman said, wait, give me a minute. Let me put away my gun. In the middle of something, okay, just give me a minute. Switch on her gun and so, oh, I see. Who cares? Even the thought of seeing, we don't even want it. If you see, when you're supposed to see, you will see it. You're not supposed to see, why even bother? Get it? You're supposed to suffer? Suffer! Don't be such a wimp. Make it go away. I'm too smart to endure pain. And why do you get married in the first place? See, oops. Slip of a tongue, sorry. We lost one person. You see that? It's so beautiful. Again, the China, this is beautiful, and it's too bad. Too bad that the Master Hsuan didn't elaborate on this. Next, 253. Sutra text, our minds have their own Buddha, and that Buddha is the true mind. If the mind does not have its own Buddha, where can the true Buddha be sought?
我心自有佛，自佛是真佛。自若无佛心，何处求真佛？
Okay, let's see any commentaries here. I doubt it. So again, of course not. Okay, let's wing it again, okay? You don't want to listen to this Catholic, and this is very Buddhist. Okay? Our minds have their own Buddha, and the Buddha is a true mind, is a true Buddha. If the mind doesn't have its own Buddha, where can the true Buddha be sought? Again, Chinese thing, okay? It sounds good and all these things. I think the Chinese can relate to it. I would throw this away. Too complicated. Just don't think. That's all. Why do you think about our minds? Did you know our minds have their own Buddha? And Alex goes crazy. Yeah, I'm a Buddha. You guys go crazy as soon as you have more information. Yes? You want to know. You want to understand. You want to say, that Buddha. Because I'm cutting you off right now. I'm cutting off everyone because next question is, what is this Buddha and true Buddha thing? You mean, my God, I mean, now we have a Buddha, now we talking about true Buddha versus a Buddha? I mean, you see the problem with all these concepts, they keep on, compounding, adding more things we need to discuss and debate and deliberate and justify, and so on and so on and so on. Let the Chinese do that. Let's cut it out. Okay, and this is fine. All this is argumentative for the sake of these scholars, is for the sake of these Chinese who love to debate and all those things. Okay, let's save ourselves some time. Move on. I'm taking a stand, Kimchi lady likes it. Your own minds are the Buddha. Have no further doubts. Nothing can be established outside the mind. For the original mind produces the 10,000 dharmas.
汝等自心是佛， 更莫狐疑，外无一物而能建立，皆是本心生万种法。
All this is true. Okay? What he's driving at here, okay, is doubt. He squashes all your doubts. You don't need to doubt. Why not? Because doubt is a thought. How could you doubt me? Oh my God. You have a thought of doubt and you hurt me. I lose my samadhi. Oh, the love went out the window as soon as she doubts me. 7.
Thank you, Master. Something I have no doubt about, based on from your previous comment, I think Chan meditation is a very important marital aid.
This guy is shameless, you know.
I can expand on this.
Please do, please do. Yeah. Now that you made me think about it, please do yourself.
I have no doubt that when I afflict my wife, she can cross her legs and my affliction goes away.
Ingenious.
Master, this has been a tremendous marital aid.
Oh, good Lord. Sorry, Daniel, you have to see this. Oh my God. This is the lowest of the Buddhism that we have to offer. It hurts when I hear these words at me. Where's your dignity as a man? Oh, God. Okay. Okay, so the teacher, all the things he said before, he's driving at this thing here. This is what's stopping you from having no thoughts. Okay, these thoughts of doubt. It nags. It's a nagging doubt that you cannot resolve. Where does it come from? Your thinking mind. Because the mind says, what if I'm wrong? What if he's pulling my leg? What if he's fake? What if he's wrong? What if I'm wrong? What if she's wrong? Huh? You see, the doubt there is operates very deep levels, and the master says, cut it out. You know, there's no need to doubt because you can trust me. You see that? He says, you cannot trust yourself, but you can trust me. Okay? I'm telling you, you're mine. You are the Buddha. Have no doubt about it. Okay? Nothing can be established outside the mind. Your mind here, okay, produces the 10,000 dharmas. That's what the Buddha taught. All the things you observe in this world were conceived by your minds. All right? Which begs the question, is it necessary? Don't be so proud of it. It's really necessary for you to conceive all these things. Okay? The intellectual says, let me try to understand. You're trying to understand nonsense. You're creating all the nonsense thing. You're trying to understand on top of the nonsense. You're trying to understand the nonsense with your nonsense mind. And you doubt everyone else. Okay? So far, so good. It's about be grateful. Let's be grateful to these great teachers where they taught us. This is what I value, by the way, from my late Chinese master, my late Chinese teachers. He says, you Koreans pay attention to this. You Asians pay attention to this. There's no more true Asian teachers who are teaching the way that Master Shenhua did. I looked and looked and looked. There's no more. Okay? I was the last that among that generation. Okay? We have the direct lineage. Same thing as spine number 1 there. Okay? So our DNA has that. Okay? But beyond that, you know, now you don't find these kind of teachers anymore in my generation anywhere in Asia at all. Okay? And so be very grateful. You know, you don't need to understand too much. All I advise you to do is to follow his instructions. That's all. Do what you're told. You cannot understand. If you keep on, let me think about it. Let me see if I can understand it. Then you are a confused living being. You cannot extricate yourself. Not possible. Okay? So far, so good? But it's true. All this is true. All the things you see here were conceived by the minds. Everything in our world was conceived by our mind. Everything came into being because we thought about it. We wanted it. We wanted a wife. We wanted children. We wanted a house. We wanted a supercar. See? We wanted, for God's sake, EV. Can you imagine? What a crazy mind that is. Huh? But it's okay to have kimchi. You see? Kimchi also created by us. We want it. And it's like all the Koreans' fault. Okay? Next. Can we move on? Don't try to understand too much. I mean, let the Chinese be confused. It's okay. Okay? Yeah. 257. Therefore, the sutras say, the mind produced, all dharmas are produced. The mind extinguished, all dharmas are extinguished.
故经云：心生种种法生，心灭种种法灭。
This is beautiful. Again, this is called student abuse. Therefore, the great teacher quoted the Buddha's teaching. This is the way he teaches is so clever. Okay, so ingenious. So the sutra, he says now, my Buddha, okay, my Buddha, authority higher than me, says, okay, before, remember, this is the crescendo. You play a musical instrument, there's something called crescendo. It gets more intense, louder, the feeling gets stronger and stronger. Huh? Crescendo? He says, have no more doubts. I'm telling you, don't have doubts. Why? Furthermore, my boss, my teacher, you trust me already? Then you should also trust my teacher. The Buddha. Sutra means that the Buddha said. You see that? It's very Chinese, it's subtle. For me, I would say, furthermore, my boss says, my teacher said. Right? No. The Chinese said, no, it is recorded in the Buddhist teachings. Two Chinese. The mind produced, all dharmas are produced. Okay? Meaning what? The mind extinguished, all dharmas are extinguished. Okay? The mind produced, all dharma produced. Okay? As long as you continue to think, you are, all dharmas are produced. Translation, you are what? What? I thought you understood everything. I have to explain everything for you. You say, oh, this is so cool. Let Master explain it the Western way, and never mind on the Chinese style. What does it mean? The mind produce or dharmas to produce? Meaning what? Yes, too.
Number 2.
They're in samadhi. Sorry.
Hello? Okay. You are what you think is mind produced, the Dharma is produced, and then the Dharma is the truth of the world. So in order for the truth to be known, there must be a mind that knows it.
Very good. Excellent. Old monk, how you explain this?
Dù bây giờ mình thấy cái vật đó thì coi như là cái vật đó sanh. Nếu cái người khác không thấy thì cái vật đó đối với họ đâu có sanh đâu. Mà cho nên mới gọi là vô sanh tất vô sanh. Mặc dù sanh ra vậy nhưng mà do cái không nó produce ra, cho nên đang sanh chính là chẳng sanh, non-production.
Okay. Anyone else? Translation.
Master, when you see things that it means that the thing is produced. So if a person did not see anything, that it means like they don't produce anything. So that's why there's a saying that produce is also non-produce, or it's like a non-production.
Go ahead, Korea. They have very high-speed internet, and there's always a lag. Go ahead, sorry.
If you have a thought, so that all dharmas is there, and if you don't have a thought, so all the dharmas died.
Very good. Excellent. The translation is a little bit inaccurate. Let's fix this. Okay? The mind produced, all sorts of dharmas are produced. The mind extinguished, all sorts of dharmas are extinguished, is the exact Chinese teaching. It's quite different from the translation. He stresses, 种种, all sorts of dharma, not just all sorts of dharma is derogative. All dharma here is neutral. All sorts of dharma is kind of yuck. Yes, Anna. Power to the people.
So when the dharmas, when a being is enlightened, there is less dharma or no dharma at all, or it has to be in order to to eradicate even the Dharma, someone has to become a Buddha. A Buddha mind doesn't have Dharma.
So typical of this woman. Someone else becomes a Buddha for me, so that everything is extinguished for me. Okay, I'm coming to that. Okay, anyone else? Yes, 6.
Sir, how can one extinguish a thought?
Okay. Okay, anyone else? Catholic.
Number 7. So that means that when all thoughts are extinguished, there's no more Dharma?
Okay. Literally is what it says. It says, when you think. The mind produces, okay? When you think. See, the Chinese, to me, they're too literary. And for us in a Dharma ending age, in this modern eras, I find it hard to identify myself with the Chinese way of thinking. But this is very, very eloquent. It's very not eloquent, elegant. The way that Master Hui Neng teaches is so elegant, it's so beautiful. I love it. But it's just that all of you look at me, huh? How is the mind produced? How are all sorts of dharmas are produced? Can you fix the all sorts of dharmas to produce, please? Okay, you understand? I just proved to you that it works for the Chinese, it doesn't work for you. Koreans, you agree or not? What does it mean? And this is a problem. This is why Buddhism dies, because you don't care anymore. You don't understand, and you have no clues. Okay? Can I explain it for you? All of you, Asians, non-Asians alike? The mind produced. Okay? All sorts of dharmas to produce. Translation. Are you ready? Huh? When you do yoga. Mind produce, meaning what? When you think. Yes? That's what mind is produced. Okay? Xin sheng is when you think. Who produces? Your mind. Your mind is thinking. That's all it means. This is what it used to confuse me so much when I read what the Chinese teaching. Production, mind produce. Why can't we say, when you think? When Lily thinks, when Anna thinks, you can understand that, can't you? But you say mind produce. Is it me? Are you talking about me? You see my problem? I'm sorry. If I sound frustrated, I was. It's frustrating. You read these things, and it's so profound, but you have no clues. I would retranslate, paraphrase it as, when you think. Simple. Same exact thing. When you think, all sorts of dharmas are produced. Meaning what? You suffer like hell. No? Think about it. As you think, it's endless. The suffering begins. As soon as you think, the suffering begins. And it has a way of driving itself to generate more and more. So that's what it's meant by all sorts of dharmas are produced. More thoughts are produced, which engenders more suffering. You see that? layer upon layers of thought. You have one thought arises, you suffer, but then this one thought here creates another thought, which creates another layer of suffering, which creates another layer of thought, then it creates another layer of suffering. You see, we drowned in this mountain of suffering. What is that called? Accumulation. This is accumulation. Why can't they say that? When you think, you undergo all sorts of sufferings, these practical consequences. Yes? As soon as you think, you will suffer. Okay? In so many layers upon layers upon layers of suffering that's why you should be scared of thinking. If the way the Chinese put it, they say, when mind produces, also Dharma also produce. It's so elegant, it's so, it's so poetic, it is so cool. But you have to scare me. If you think a shameless thought, all sorts of sufferings will be created. Layers on layers on layers. Yes? Yeah. When the mind is extinguished, all sorts of Dharma is extinguished. Meaning what? Stop thinking, the pain goes away. Because when you endure the leg pains there, it will hurt as long as you think. It only stops hurting when you stop thinking. So it's not an intellectual exercise. You have to get to the state where your mind actually stops thinking, then there's no more pain. Then you know what it's like. Until then, we can describe it to you until we're blue in the face. You won't understand what it is. Okay? Until you get there. Yes, Anna.
My question again, an enlightening mind eradicates the Dharma or not yet?
No, it's not about my enlightened mind. It's about your enlightened mind. Okay? Right now, you think a lot. That's your nature. You think to survive. You think in order to be in control. Yes? Because if you don't think, who will? It's supposed to be a joke. Okay? Because you're thinking, that's why you're suffering so much. And you creating your own suffering. It's not just right now, but you've been creating your own suffering since beginningless time. That's why the habit energy is very, very strong. You're not going to stop overnight. Okay? You have to believe, Master Hui Neng and the Buddha says, you've been thinking too much. So you have all these mountains of suffering. All these thoughts are producing where you are right now, and more are coming, and more and more and more are coming, ceaselessly, endlessly. Okay? So the question you really want to know, I think, is that how do I make it all disappear? Yes? Right? You can't. Not yet. All you can do right now is deal with this current wave. Okay? What you're experiencing that is called suffering is a result of the thoughts you produce in the past. So you have to endure it and use it to stop thinking and stop producing future suffering. Does it make sense? You cannot stop the past. In the past, you have to come here and repent and all those things, okay? But if you can't come repent and so forth, repentance can go so far, you still have to suffer, okay? You only can repent so much, okay? So, you are here to suffer from your prior thoughts. Is that clear? It's just like you got married, so now what? You don't say, I don't want to stop. I want to stop it. I don't want to suffer anymore. That's not possible. You got that? So we're suffering right now because we're supposed to suffer. It happened already. We put ourselves in this position. Okay? Is it clear? And then, so to say, stop this pain here is unreasonable. Because when you say stop it, you're producing a thought, aren't you? You're creating even more suffering. So all you should be doing is stop thinking. Take it like a man. I mean like a woman. Okay? Take it. The Asians, by the way, they call it, I owe my husband. Ask Lily. I owe my son. Huh? That's Asian wisdom, by the way. I owe him. I owe her. The shameless. You see what I mean? It's not about you, my friend. You see that? So, you see the wisdom, Buddhist wisdom? You know we're here, we're suffering because we're supposed to suffer. It's our retribution. Stop creating new ones. That's Buddhist teaching. First, you stop creating new ones. Get out of the wheel. Getting out of the wheel meaning stop creating new ones. Is that clear? I mean, it's so Chinese the way the Asians explain it. Get out of the wheel, end birth and death. Baloney. Cut it out. Okay? Let's put an end to this right now. Let's not create any more future suffering. Is it clear? That we have control over. We're here. We're supposed to suffer. We're supposed to be sick. We're supposed to be infected by the Republicans. Excuse me. It's deeply seated. What can I say? Okay, you got the point? Okay? Stop complaining. It's unfair, but stop complaining. You got that? Got that, Anna? You see? We're here to suffer because we ask for it. We create our own suffering. So that, stop it. Don't create any more suffering. First thing you do, stop creating more suffering. Okay? In that process, you can put an end to all suffering right now as well. But you have to stop creating new sufferings first. You can't do that. We're not going to go to number 2. Number 2 is paying section. Got that? Don't complain. We give you a lot of freebies. Huh? Yeah, cool? The Buddhist boys and girls, we can monetize it anytime we feel like it. Don't worry about your future. Yes, Daniel. The Catholics only think 10% tithe. No, we're talking about slavery until the end of time. Yes, Daniel.
I have a question. One of your talks, you were talking about Bodhidharma, but I still don't know what that means.
It's expected. It's a Buddhist thing. Yes, Anna. 8.
This is a little bit off the topic, but it's still related to it. If a psychologist would have the wisdom of Buddhism, probably they wouldn't have any more money or any income because that career could disappear. I've been exposed to a lot of youth and how they talk that they have been boxed into some sort of psychological disorder, and they don't know how to face anymore their own struggles. And all that I see is that there is no tools for them given by a psychologist. It's just, you're in this box and this is the way you're gonna be. So this is a kind of an irresponsible approach to try to help someone. And I'm thankful that I probably brought up this conversation and this topic with you, and that you explain what you explain. So at least I can understand a little beyond their own ways of perspectives in their lives. Thank you.
It's unfair. It doesn't make sense. But this is all we got. Okay, this is the best. You cannot blame them. This is the best they have to offer. They're helpful up to a certain point. That's all. The bottom line here is that we are supposed to suffer, so endure. Okay? Don't resent. Don't complain. Don't wish, make it go away, and so forth. Okay? Because you're creating thoughts and you're creating more suffering. That's all. Isn't that beautiful? It's very simple. Don't try and understand too much. Don't say, how come I'm in pain, you're not helping me? Aren't you supposed to be my husband? Aren't we supposed to share the burden equally? All those are thoughts. You're adding more suffering on yourself, that's all. Okay? Or you say, I'm suffering for my wife. Please. Okay? That's also even more thoughts, more pain for yourself. Okay? Bear it. That's all. Okay? And this is all we have to offer you. And eventually, when you get closer, you understand. You stop thinking, so stop complaining. Thinking here, don't complain. Okay? Don't be greedy. Don't complain. Don't get angry. Don't blame people. Don't justify. Don't try to understand. Don't. Cut it out. Okay? Take it. Just take it. Okay? And that's what stopping thinking means. And when you do that, I explain to you, and let me reiterate for you, to make it very clear for you, all sorts of dharmas are extinguished. Okay? Meaning that you are not creating new dharmas. Okay? So far so good, because it's a vicious cycle. You suffer, you think about your suffering, you complain, you moan, and and you only creating more suffering for yourself. Okay, that's all you're doing, and you're so clever, aren't you? You know, Alex says, "Let me see if I can figure out a way to put an end to my suffering." I can figure out. I'm pretty sure. You know. It hasn't been done before, but I will be the first one. Okay? And that's people have done that before. Okay? People have tried to do it before. Cut it out. Just stop thinking. Just take it. Okay? So you stop creating new suffering in the future. You don't have to undergo more suffering in the future. But for now, if you're able to cut off more future suffering, then you will figure out how to not suffer anymore right now. Those are two-step dance. It's a... Sorry. It's just habit energy. You understand? So you have to stop the what they call the outflow first. Don't get afflicted first. If you're not afflicted by not thinking, you think because you're afflicted. Think about it. I mean, excuse me. Okay? I repeat, you're afflicted, that's what you think. Okay? So if you're afflicted and you refuse to think, you don't engage, okay? Then the affliction disappears too, eventually. That is ingenious. That's the only way to fix it, is to not let it bother you. Don't sit there and say, why is so unfair? He goes and drinks and have fun with his friends. I'm here taking care of the children, do the finances, clean the house. It's endless and endless. This is not fair, you know. You're creating more sufferings for yourself, that's all. Okay? Stop thinking. Take it. Learn, use the opportunity to take it until it no longer bothers you. That's it. All sufferings end. All dharma is extinguished. No more suffering. That's what it means. It sounds good? Huh? You want that class? Please come up and sign up here. Special class for Catholics with pain. I'm warning you. Okay? Go ahead. Q&A.
Những cái điều thầy nói đó là một cái quá trình con đã trải qua, thì con chia sẻ với đại chúng như thế này. Năm 20 tuổi là tôi bị draft vào military, infantry military. Thì đến năm 11 năm sau tôi mới được ra, thì ở tù luôn, ở tù cải tạo. Thì ý tôi nói là cái nghiệp báo của mình á, khi trước khi tôi biết Phật pháp đó, trong lính người nào cũng rất là sợ cái commander của mình. Cô dịch đi con.
I would like to share something with you about the process I've been going through. So when I was 20 years old, I was enlisted in the military, in the infantry military. I was in there for 11 years. And then after 11 years, I was put in the prison. And then I would like to say something about the karma, like I created before I know about Buddhism.
Khi mà tôi ở trong quân đội đó, 2 lần tôi hăm giết cái ông tư lệnh tôi, mặt đối mặt chứ không có nói lén. Tôi sẽ giết vô đó, vô ăn hiếp tôi đi, tôi giết vô á, hoặc là vô giết vô tôi giết vô.
So when I was in the army, there was 2 times that I was threatening my commander, my tư lệnh, what is that?
Commanding officer.
My commanding officer is like, I will kill you. If you dare to do it, I will kill you. I say it right in front of his face.
Dạ, tôi chỉ huy lính của tôi cũng vậy. Hoặc là ngay cả vợ tôi cũng vậy. Khi mà trái ý tôi mà làm một cách ngạo nghễ, là ngay cả vợ tôi luôn. Tôi lên đạn tôi kê bàn tay hay mở miệng chết liền. Tôi đổi bằng mỗi giá.
So that's how I treat my my man, my subordinate, and then also the same way with my wife. If they did anything against my will, and then if they were arrogant, I will put my gun on the head, and then I'm willing to pull the trigger.
Một ngày đó thì tôi thấy quân cảnh của tôi bắt một cái anh cũng giết người ta như vậy đó, thì tôi mới bắt đầu suy nghĩ, thì tôi bớt đi.
And one day my man was capture a guy like he was also a soldier, and then he was killed someone.
Thì cho đến khi tôi biết được Phật pháp á, thì những cái điều mà Thượng Tiên Hóa với thầy Vĩnh Hóa đề giảng á, rất là đúng và rất là hay. Là do cái vận tâm mình.
Until I know about the Buddhism and I realized that whatever Master Yonghua, Master Xuanhua taught about Buddhism is very, very good, very true.
Cái điều thầy Vĩnh Hóa giảng và Thượng Tiên Hóa giảng ở ngoài không có sách nào nói hết. Tức là phải chịu đau, nhẫn chịu cho cái đau đó thì tư tưởng nó tự dừng. Không có sách nào ở ngoài nói cái đó hết.
Whatever Master Yonghua or Master Xuanhua talk about, like you have to endure the pain, and then eventually the pain will disappear. You cannot find anywhere in any book outside.
Thì sau khi mà tư tưởng mình nó dừng lại đó, thì mình sẽ thấy được cái tâm mình lúc đó nó không có ý nghĩ nào khởi lên đó. Thì khi quý vị giận mà muốn chửi ai đó, nếu mình còn tỉnh táo, mình nhớ là cái không đó nó không có giận, nó không có nói mình cái gì đó. Tại sao mình chấp lên một tư tưởng lên là mình ghét với thương được, cho nên mình bỏ rất là dễ.
So when you can stop your thinking, then in your mind you see that there's no more thought, and then if there's a moment that you get angry at someone, you want to yell at someone, you just bring yourself back to the moment when you are no thought, then you don't have any reason to yell at that person.
Trong khi đó Đức Phật với Tổ Thầy và Thượng Tiên Hóa Thầy rồi dạy mình rất là nhiều cái dụng cụ. Ví dụ bây giờ tôi nghe mọi người nói mới đây nè, trong đạo tràng của chúng ta nè, có nhiều người nói là tôi bỏ hết tất cả ham muốn này nọ hết á, nhưng mà tôi không có bỏ được cái nghĩ tôi ghét người ta. Tôi ghét ngày nào tôi nhớ hoài, tôi buông không được.
So the Buddha, the Patriarch Master Xuanhua, our master, has been teaching us a lot of tools and experience. But lately I heard someone in our way place say that I can give up everything except I can let go of the thought that I'm getting angry at someone.
Thì quý vị nhớ lại mình được Tổ Thầy cho mình những dụng cụ nào? Chú Lăng Nghiêm đó là để nó móc ra những cái tật xấu thói hư mà mình bỏ không được đó. Chú Lăng Nghiêm nó giúp mình. Với cái chú Đại Bi mình sám hối thì sáng đó, nó giúp mình rất là nhanh.
So one of the tools that we are taught, like the Surangama Sutra, is very powerful mantra, and then the Great Compassion mantra. They are the two powerful tools to help us to get rid of our bad habit.
Khi đó, thành ra tôi công nhận với thầy Vĩnh Hóa là cái bước đầu tiên mà Hòa Thượng Tiên Hóa giảng trong 100 cái ngày thiền thất đó, một câu ngắn thôi. Tất cả những cái này quý vị muốn đạt được đó là phải qua thế kiết già và chịu đau. Đó là cái câu mà Thượng giảng ngắn ở trong cái 100 ngày thiền thất mà tôi nghe thầy Vĩnh Hóa giảng, tôi rất là cảm ơn và cái câu đó rất là hay.
So I remember there's a sentence that Master Xuanhua taught during the 100-day chant retreat, and our master explained to like the way to put an end to it is by cross your leg, sit in full lotus, and I'm very grateful to learn about that.
Rồi còn những cái thói quen tật xấu mà chúng ta gọi là tập khí nhiều đời nhiều kiếp, nó không phải một ngày một giờ mà dễ bỏ nó đâu. Thì chúng ta được cho cái dụng cụ là 42 thủ nhãn, chú Đại Bi, chú Lăng Nghiêm. Thì quý vị cứ kiên trì mà đi cái đó thì nó hết cái kia rất là nhanh.
And then you have all of the other habit or the habit energy or whatever is very difficult to get rid of it overnight. Then you have other experience, for example, the 42 hand and eye or the other mantra, Great Compassion mantra, or whatever, you can use it and eventually you can get rid of it. That's it.
Okay, very good. To add on top of it, that's what we've been doing the last 15 years, is to encourage you to sit in full lotus as part of your training in order to honor my master, Master Xuanhua. And that's a treasure he brought to our country, to the United States, and it's lost in Asia. You go to Asia, you'll be very rare to find people, Asians, sitting in full lotus at all, let alone go through the intensive training that we, Wei Yang style of training. It is so intensive, you won't find it anywhere. So the first 15 years is spent on, for me, to spend on that, to honor his memory and to show gratitude. But from now on, we're going to include more people. It's not going to be just full lotus, because the next wave, the next circle, the next level is for the people. The Wei Yang is supposed to be able to help those people as well, where they cannot sit in full lotus, nor are they willing. Okay, so that's why it's not what it is. This is not the way that it looks. Okay, so we are now on the next phase where we will include people like they can't sit in full lotus. Okay, it's just so it's not the only way. Full lotus is not the only way, but actually, full lotus is for the people who can handle it. But the Dharma has to be able to help those who cannot handle it, those who are not willing to endure the suffering. Okay, so meaning that we need to do more hand-holding, we need to be more patient. I've been very impatient the last 15 years because we don't have a lot of space. We cannot afford to help everyone, but we need to be more compassionate. I'm committing to do that, meaning that I'll commit my students to be more compassionate. And so, for example, we're starting the new phase now where we'll be more inclusive and be more patient, okay? Because that's what I train my students to do, to be able to handle it, okay? So it's a lot more going on. It should be a lot of fun down the road, okay? It's a natural evolution. Okay? We need to take care of, to be more inclusive, if you will. Okay? Thank you, everyone. We see you next time. Let's do the rebirth transference.